Make a pick and roll with it. Make a pick and roll with it. Betting weekly. Fast break. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown.
And just like that, round one of the WNBA playoffs will conclude tonight, whether the Liberty or the Mercury get the dub. Happy Friday, guys, and welcome into another live edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I'm Sara Civian, and I'm joined by professional handicapper Wes Reynolds. Wes, we've got 3 out of 4 semifinals teams locked in as the Fever and the Aces took care of business last night. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. The Fever pull a nice upset. Everything against them all year with the injuries and different personnel matters, and they found a way to win and found a way to beat Atlanta when it looked like they were down. And somebody also seems to be excited about the WNBA playoffs right now. But anywho, with the Fever, I think that. Just a hell of a comeback, I think, against the Atlanta Dream last night because everything was against them, and they found a way to get the stop at the end. Lexi Hull makes the steal, and Atlanta just couldn't make a shot down the stretch, and I thought the Fever out-executed them last night. And, pull a nice upset. They'll face the Las Vegas Aces now in the semifinals, and the Aces were up against it. It looked like, you know what, we're going to get Fever Storm in the semifinals, just like we all thought that we were going to get 6 versus 7. And then the Aces get the stop there at the end. Just the Storm kind of ran out of clock there, and Skylar Diggins gets the offensive rebound, passes the ball to Gabby Williams instead of shooting it, and they just ran out of time. So we're getting Fever Aces in the second round, and everybody's still chasing the Minnesota Lynx, though.
Yes, 100%. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway of the first round. And thank you for holding down the fort there as my parents' dogs were in a screaming match. They have calmed down and they are very hyped for round two, too. So we'll get into the odds that have opened at Bet Rivers for Fever and Aces. But the Liberty and the Mercury face off tonight after the Mercury crushed Liberty 86-60 to even the series last night. And it feels like, or not last night. Hello, sorry, the dogs. We're back. It feels like the Liberty are sort of hanging on by a limb right now, though, tonight. So let's talk about game 2 for a minute. Satou Sabally rallied from her worst shooting performance of the season in game 1 to go 5 for 11 from the field and 2 for 4 from the three-point range for 15 points. It was an abysmal game offensively for the Liberty. I mean, Breanna Stewart had 6 points. She was contained to 20 minutes with her MCL sprain. Ionescu's 9 points for the most for any starter. And man, she has just been struggling when it comes to the shooting this season. At the same time, I did tune into yesterday's show. I appreciated Doug's take that game 2 wouldn't have played out the same way if Mercury had taken game 1. Are the Liberty cooked?
It looks like they are, but I'm not, they're still the champs until they're not anymore. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that they're going to necessarily go down without a fight here. I just don't see that. I know that the market is betting it accordingly. It's out to like 2.5 right now for the Mercury. And I think that they're the rightful favorites deciding game 3 at home, and considering how they performed on Wednesday night, where Phoenix played great and the Liberty played awful. And you mentioned it with Breanna Stewart. She's not 100%. We know that she's not. She's going to play tonight because this is an elimination game. So, whether you're hurt or not, injured or not, you're going to play. So I think with New York, we've kind of seen this all season, that they've been pretty mortal when the big 3, which you would say is Sabrina, Stewie, and Jonquel Jones, aren't 100% at the same time. Phoenix, I think that this is probably priced right. You might be able to get away with 3 or 3.5 laying these points, but a lot of the production with Stewie too, it wasn't just the injury, it was the fact that this was a blowout very, very early. And, there was no reason for New York to really extend their starters and play Sabrina or play Jones or play Tasha Cloud or Stewie very many minutes in the fourth quarter because this game was long over. So I don't know what I'm going to do at the side, if anything, Sarah, because it looks almost too easy to lay it with the Mercury here. So just trying to look around, I guess, at the prop market of where I think that this may go. And maybe Emma Meeseman under points, even though she could play more with the Stewie injury. But gosh, it looks too easy, and sometimes it is. Sometimes the line is what the line is, and you just play it and you don't overthink it. But gosh, laying 2.5 here to a team that just got absolutely obliterated at home, I don't know if I'm going to do that here.
Yeah, and then you think about the nature of the games recently and how they're coming down to a buzzer beater or not. Yeah, I feel like if I'm going to place a wager on Mercury or Liberty, I think it would just be Mercury money line. Like I don't want to play around with the points, but I was eyeing. I don't know if that's changed it within the hour, but the points line at 155. The unders have been hitting this postseason. These teams combined for just 145 points in game one, 146 in game two, with one of the two teams failing to crack 70 points in both matchups. There's so much at stake in game three. I'm picturing a defensive matchup. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that goes to logic that usually on a deciding game three, especially if it is close, that you're going to see unders, that you're going to see teams take, I think, more time in terms of the possession and really try to work for that best shot possible. So you could certainly, I think, anticipate that. But last night we saw it play out both ways. We saw the dream and the fever because those first two games go easily under, and then you knew 5 minutes into the game this is going over. You absolutely knew with the fast pace, and I think the fever forced the tempo, and that may be the reason why they ended up winning the game is that they were able to force tempo and kind of get the dream where they're not playing that half court offense and not being able to work their size advantage down low. And that's how it played out. And then the Storm and the Aces was an easy under because I think that played out like the more conventional deciding game three, almost like a game seven in the NBA playoffs, where you're going to see more often than not lower scoring, especially early. And then you could get the fouling late because it's an elimination game. So that's what you're always worried about with the total here, because this is win or go home. And if this is kind of close, the team that's trailing is clearly going to foul. So that's a little bit of the concern. So I think if you're maybe looking at the total here, maybe first half under could be a play. And I'm seeing that out there. Let me check the Bet Rivers price. It is 79.5, and that's pretty much where the market is as well. So that might be the way I'd be looking here is a first half under, and then maybe it picks up later.
Yeah, I like that. And you talk about props. I was looking at Sabali over 5.5 rebounds. I feel she's been cooking on those. She averaged around 5 in the regular season, but she has been popping off against the Liberty when it comes to that. She needs to play well if they're going to win. I think she's going to give her absolute all. Obviously, everyone's leaving everything on the court today. And I think the Mercury have been, at least in game two, of course, like they figured out how to guard the Liberty. And it really, I don't want to overreact to game two, right? So I appreciate your kind of sound analysis about this, that like, don't go crazy, right? You never know what's going to happen when it's an all or nothing win or go home type game. But I am eyeing that a little bit. I know the odds are pretty decent at Bet Rivers for that. So just another one I'm thinking about.
Yeah, a lot of different ways I think to try to play this game, but it's so hard because we know that the Liberty have not been what they were last year. Even when they've been healthy, I don't think the defense has been as good. Stewie, even before the first injury, has had kind of a down year, and they've had a lot of changes within that team. They brought in Tasha Cloud, who I think is their best perimeter defender, because that's not really Sabrina's bag here. She's not the greatest on ball defender. So that's why they brought Tasha Cloud in to help her out. But you are seeing some things. And I always hate to, put it this way when you're discussing age, but Jonquel Jones is getting a little bit older. Brianna Stewart was not 100% this year. So they had a lot of changes, I think, within this team. And they're still capable of beating anybody on any given night. But they have not been what you would think that the defending champion would look like here. That being said, they're 40 minutes away from going ahead and advancing and getting that WNBA Finals rematch with the Minnesota Lynx. The Lynx certainly want that. I think they want redemption for losing in the finals last year to the Liberty. The Fee basically said that at the conclusion of the comeback win at Golden State, where they won the series 2-0 on Wednesday night. Said, yeah, they'd like to play New York, not because New York is a stronger or weaker opponent, because they want to get them back for beating them in the title games last year. So, yeah, nothing for me on the side as of now, but I think one I'm going to look at, this may be a run it back, because I considered doing it in the last game and then it turned into a blowout and then nobody for the Liberty went over. But somebody is going to maybe have to pick up the scoring if Breanna Stewart is not going to get her usual minutes, and if they're going to have to manage her a little bit and substitute her in and out frequently, where she's not going to stay on the floor for a whole quarter like she usually would. And I think the person that may pick up that scoring could be Tasha Cloud at 10.5 points, minus 118 to the over at Bet Rivers. Keep in mind, Tasha Cloud was a member of the Phoenix Mercury last year. So you always kind of want to go off a little bit against your old team. And she certainly did that in game 1 of this series, not so much in game 2, where she only had 8 points, but nobody basically was in double figures for the Liberty except for Mieseman, who was playing in garbage time off the bench. So Tasha Cloud, we'll make that an official here. We'll go over 10.5 points, minus 118.
Yeah, I really like the thought process there. That seems doable for her. And I know she's been in clutch situations and has made it happen throughout her career in various situations. I even think about the All-Star game, the event she won. She is a competitor to her core. And even I like that, because even if the Liberty don't win, you are right that somebody is going to have to eat Stewart's minutes. You've seen that she has been like hobbling around, right? Like she is very clearly hurt. That MCL is sprained. As much as she'd like to play as much as possible, at a certain point, you put her in there for the morale and you put her in there to see what she can do, how hard she can go. But there is a limit, and she only got 20 minutes in game 2. So we kind of got to suss that out, right? And we saw the amount she was able to play, and it wasn't that much. So I'm sure they're going to play her as much as they can. But I kind of like the idea of Tasha coming off the bench and making an impact there for sure.
Yeah. So Natasha and everybody's going to get max minutes here because it's it's game 3. I keep wanting to say it's game 7. It's best of 3 in the first round and then best of 5. A lot of discussion about that. Probably the ideal scenario is to be best of 5, because this 1-1-1, people don't like it, but I think it gives every team a home game in the playoffs and rewards the fans for coming out and supporting the team all year. 2-2-1, probably the best format, but we are best of 3 here. So Natasha Cloud over 10.5 points. She had 8 on 28 minutes. And I was tempted to play Sabrina because she had such a bad shooting night. 3 of 13, 1 of 8 from the 3, only had 9 points, but the Sun, or the Mercury, I should say, I was thinking of the Phoenix Suns, but the Mercury, they are conditioned, I think, to stop Sabrina Ionescu at the point of attack. So they're going to focus more on her and say, okay, Natasha Cloud, who's more of a defensive player than she is an offensive player, to be fair. They're going to say, okay, we'll let you beat us. We'll let you score. We got to take Sabrina away, and we know we got Stewie hobbled. So if we take Sabrina away and we take John Kell Jones and kind of keep her a little bit at bay, then we're going to be okay. John Kell, by the way, did have 13 rebounds on Wednesday night in the 86-60 loss. So they're going to try to focus on Jones and Sabrina, and I think that probably benefits Tasha Cloud from a scoring standpoint.
Yeah, it's a great point because Sabrina's always going to take the shots, but they have been really good at containing her and making sure she misses the shots. So it's like they're back to the drawing board, right? There's going to have to be a different strategy. They've got her number, and that's pretty evident. And we talked about the 1-1-1 format. I know, is it the most fair situation in the world? Maybe not. Is it always going to be the best team theoretically winning? And if it's only 3 games, maybe not. I'm really enjoying it for kind of getting the show on the road factor. I love that it's 3 games in round 1, 5 in round 2, 7 in the final.
And it does reward everybody. Like I was saying, rewarding home teams. Like you wouldn't have gotten a chance if this was a best of 3 and the first two games are at home for the better seed, you wouldn't have gotten a chance to have that great atmosphere for Golden State, even though it wasn't at Valhalla. It was in downtown San Jose because they had an event in the arena in San Francisco, the Laver Cup, the tennis event. But you had a great atmosphere there. You had a great atmosphere in Indiana in game number 2 and a loud crowd against the Dream. So you want to reward these teams, that do make the playoffs, where it's like, okay, you get to see at least one home game in the playoffs. And I think that's rewarding the fans that came out all spring and all summer to support these teams, to be able to do that. And also the fact that this season is a little bit shortened because we're just now into football, and it's like, okay, we just got that started. We're about to get NBA started here in the next month. So the WNBA clearly does not want to bleed in to the NBA season. So they want to get this wrapped up as soon as possible. It's already tough enough to go against the NFL competition. Like last Sunday, they started, and had all 4 series in game 1, and it felt like it got ignored because you're going against the NFL, and that's the 800-pound gorilla in sports. So it would have been better, I think, maybe to start during like weeknights, but with this 1-1 format, that makes it impossible with the travel. So, yeah, I like the fact that, you wrap up at least a little bit earlier. So I don't hate the format as much. I don't think it necessarily penalizes the higher seed, because the higher seed at least gets a deciding game on their home floor.
If I was a fan of a team, maybe I could find a way that I would be annoyed by this, right? But as just a viewer and an appreciator of the whole game and kind of all of the WNBA, I'm a fan of it for the entertainment value and kind of the quirks that differentiate it from maybe the NBA, right? Or an NHL, like any type of format. I like kind of differentiating yourself and seeing trying things out, especially when 8 teams make it, right? It's just kind of a different situation. So I don't know. I'm there for that, but at the same time, I would understand complaints against it.
Right. Absolutely. And actually, just coming across the wire, just a real quick note here. There are 5 finalists now officially for the WNBA MVP. It's going to be announced on Sunday. It is Nafisa Collier from Minnesota, Alicia Gray from Atlanta, Kelsey Mitchell from Indiana, Alyssa Thomas from Phoenix, and of course, A'ja Wilson from the Las Vegas Aces. We expect A'ja, by the way, is now going to win the MVP. It didn't seem like it was a foregone conclusion until about maybe a couple weeks ago when Collier was out injured. And A'ja Wilson, by the way, last night, she scored half of the Las Vegas Aces points.
38
38 points for A'ja Wilson. So if it wasn't decided, it probably is decided now. A'ja Wilson, 38 points on 26 shots, so took almost half of the shots for the team, and they needed every single one of them because that was a highly winnable game for Seattle. I think last night where they nearly pulled the upset, and then all of a sudden we had a team that won 17 in a row, lose two in a row, and be out of the playoffs. But it is going to be the Aces and the Fever. And I was looking over the series prices, Sarah. I don't think we have it up yet at Bet Rivers, but I'm looking at the market, and it's basically about the Fever plus $7. I've seen them as high as plus $8. Like, I think the Aces are the rightful favorite. But if you're just taking from a price standpoint, not necessarily, okay, I'm trying to win this individual bet, I think that price is too high, personally. And it's not that I'm predicting or expecting the Fever to win the series, because I don't. But I think that this is a little bit of a disrespectful price for a team that, you know what, they've got nothing to lose. It's us against the world. We've got, half of our team seemingly injured. And we don't even have enough seats on the bench for them to all sit down. Some have to sit like a row up because they can't all fit on the bench because there's so many injured. And I felt like the Aces, Sarah, I don't know about you. I listened to some of the press conference, Becky Hammond's press conference last night, and she was a little bit confident. She's like, well, when they got us, we were not at our, at our best, and kind of was a little bit dismissive and disrespectful of the Fever. And then even A'ja Wilson in the post-game interview on television last night was kind of like surprised, like, oh, like she gave the vibe like pleasantly surprised that they're getting the Fever instead of the Dream. And the Dream would have probably been a tougher matchup because of how physical they are. They're the most physical team in the WNBA. But I'd be careful if I were the Aces, maybe looking ahead a little bit and getting too cocky. I think they win the series, but boy, I'd be trying to look to bet the Fever some kind of way. If you're not going to bet on the outright price, maybe on the series spread, because now you go to a best of 5 to say, okay, do you take Fever plus a certain amount of games or the exact series price? Because I'm not going to lay, $12 or $14 here to win one on the Aces. So I think the Fever are going to make this a more competitive series. And by the way, that's the first of the 2 series on Sunday. Minnesota will get the second game against the winner of tonight's game.
Yeah, I mean, people got to be careful counting out the Fever, and they've been dealing with this all season, right? And they keep just coming back and firing back. If I'm the opposing team, I'm giving nothing but respect to them so they don't have any motivation to prove me wrong. It seems like that's been their playbook all season, and people are giving props to Stephanie White now. I know maybe she started off a little bit rocky but it wasn't her fault with all the injuries, right? I got to give her props. I mean, her players are really, really lauding her. And I think you always have to listen to when players are kind of going to bat for their coaches like that. So that was interesting to me.
You have like half of the team. You had players playing minutes that were either buried on the bench or weren't even on the team in the first place, playing vital minutes, like Bri Turner, who's on the team to start the year, but buried on the bench, like only would play like garbage time minutes, and was getting big minutes in the fourth quarter, like had a big putback for them with about 3 minutes to go. Shea Petty, Odyssey Sims, Ariel Powers. They weren't even on the team to start the year, and they're playing minutes. And then Kelsey Mitchell was absolutely terrific last night, as she's really been, I think, down the stretch. So won't win the MVP, but deservedly a first team All WNBA when that's officially announced. And I thought Aaliyah Boston, I thought where the game turned, if you were watching that game last night, was in the third quarter when Brianna Jones was kind of hanging on Boston's back, and it was a foul. And was kind of like hooking her a little bit. And Aaliyah Boston kind of turned her arm and ended up like shoving her down. And Aaliyah Boston is not like that type of player, right? Like she's not, I think overly physical necessarily, but she was like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the BS and kind of pushed her down. And, it ended up being a T on Boston and a foul on Brianna Jones. But I think that turned the game. It was like, you know what? I'm not going to put up with this anymore, because I think that there has been a lot of physical play in the league this year that has not been policed properly. And, sometimes it's the players that are going to police it. And Aaliyah Boston did. And I thought mentally that turned the tide for the Fever last night, because the Fever were down and kind of going uphill last night. And then I think that gave them the confidence. You know what? To hell with it. We're just going to win. Okay, we're not just going to come in to try to get close and play as hard and give an effort. We're going to be able to take this game, and they stole that game at the end. And now the Fever, unbelievably, in the semifinals on Sunday against the Las Vegas Aces. That line, by the way, for game number 1, Aces laying 9, 162.5, and actually 9.5 at Bet Rivers. I'd lean Fever. I have not decided what I'm doing. Obviously I have a full weekend of football and baseball betting going on, so I'll decide that on Sunday. But if I'm getting involved, I'm taking Fever in game number 1.
Yeah, I love that energy. I feel as though, the Aces are favorites at -455 right now. I feel that's a little dramatic. I kind of am with you that there could be some value with the Fever. I do want to do more research after getting through tonight's game. So I'm kind of with you on that I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet. But again, we keep counting this team out. You mentioned Aaliyah Boston. Obviously, she made the go-ahead basket with 7.4 seconds left in the game last night. I feel as though there's so much talk about Caitlin Clark, and rightfully so, right? But Boston was always supposed to be a really, really good player. So it's been nice to see her kind of come into, she was playing really well with Clark too, but it's been nice to see her get the respect that she deserves and her kind of stepping into her own. And then Mitchell, obviously a fantastic playoff run right now, led the team last night with 24 points. She's just showing that she still got it, right? She's fast as heck. And I am not anywhere near counting this team out against the Aces.
No, not at all. And this might be a team to watch yet again next year when they get the full strength, because they're building something here. Like, they're building, some sort of a culture, and I think that carries over where they've really had this togetherness and they've stuck together. So people always try to be shit stirrers, if you will, on social media, like, oh, the Fever hate each other and there's tension with each other. BS. There's not tension with Caitlin or anybody with the team. I think that they've come together, and this whole situation with the injuries have forced them to come together. So there's something to be said for that. So the Fever, while they're probably a little bit outgunned in this Aces series, they're not going to be an easy out at all.
I'll say they beat the Aces twice in the regular season. Obviously, those wins came before the Aces' big turnaround, but now the Aces are immortal and they dropped a game and they're kind of looking, I don't know, they're not running out of gas for sure, but these games haven't been perfect that they've won, right? But they have managed to win at the end of the day for the most part. And I will say one thing that's against the Fever in this matchup is it's not best of 3 anymore, it's best of 5. So you have to win several more games to make it happen.
So that does make it less likely for upsets, and I think that you see that priced in the series prices, and we'll certainly see that a little bit once we get tonight's result with Minnesota, as they're going to be a clear favorite, and they're odds on right now, which means odds on means minus money to go ahead and win the WNBA championship. So yeah, with the longer series, the better team, the talent usually wins out in the long run. And that's why the Aces are such a big favorite. But what I would advise, if you're playing the Fever, maybe play smaller on them for the outright series, but I think go a little bit higher with +1.5 on the game spread. Now that basically means it's got to go 5, or if you have a shop that's going to offer exact margin, like Aces in 4, I think would be common, because it feels like the Fever are going to be good enough to get 1 at home at some point. So Aces in 4 seems logical, but I think the Fever are going to take them the distance. I think this is going to be a 5-game Aces win.
I think they're riding off like fumes in a good way, right? Like they have really been able to cultivate kind of, like you were saying, the culture. I know people say whatever they want to say about how they perceive interactions between Clark and everyone, and that's ridiculous. They've shown through what they've been able to do and overcome, right? That they are a cohesive team and that they play for each other, play for the coach. And I'll say Odyssey Sims is really, really, she was kind of my bright spot of the first round. It just feels like her presence was all over the court. And I don't know, it feels like that was a great grab, right, for this team. Because she was there to start the season, and she comes and has such an impact on the playoffs.
Yeah, without question. So the Fever have been a nice, I guess if you want to call it Cinderella story, considering I think a lot of people thought that they were going to be in the semifinals and a title contender, but maybe not the route that they have had to take throughout the season. So that will be Sunday, and then sticking with tonight. The only play I have right now is Tasha Cloud over 10.5 points, looking around for more, but I couldn't really get there on the side either way, because I think anything can happen. And we've had the underdogs have a run ever since that day one of the playoffs, where all the favorites won pretty easily. Underdogs have had the reins pretty much. I think they've gone 6-4 ever since. So, continuing on that trend would be the Liberty, but this is a wounded bunch. I'm not ready to go there with them. So if you're going to play the Liberty, find a way to play it on a prop. And with Stewie not being 100%, and John Kell Jones, her minutes have been declining because they attack her in the pick and roll. Somebody's got to score, and I think it's probably going to be Tasha Cloud tonight.
I like that as a prop for sure. That's the only prop I would do, but I think I'm going to stay away from the props. I'm going to do Mercury money line. I'm feeling it. I've seen what I needed to see. I might be overreacting from game 2, but I do think I saw the defensive performance from the Mercury that I needed to see. I saw Stewart's hurt and how that affects the rest of the team. I am waiting for Ionescu to get more accurate with the shots. It seems like she just has not been able to accomplish that when needed this season. So that's why I like your cloud prop bet, right? Like I think if someone's going to step up and do it, that's going to be her. But I also feel as though the Mercury will handle this. So I'm not going to mess around with the spread because that's been kind of a sore spot for me during these playoffs so far. But I'm going to say Mercury money line. I'm going to check out the first 3 to 5 minutes of the game, see what the flow is, maybe hit an under. But I'm definitely going to do Mercury money line.
Yeah, so sounds like a plan, and I think ultimately the Mercury do advance, but with the lower number, yeah, I want to wait and see. Maybe this is like an in game opportunity here because I just don't think, even though you got to travel all the way across the country, that the Liberty are like gonna like pack it in here. They're gonna give them a maximum effort. They're the defending champions. I think there's a lot of pride on this team, and the core stars of the team are still together. But yes, they're just not 100%, and they've had some chinks in the armor this year. I think even when they have been healthy, especially that defense. So can they gather one more time and show the heart of the champion and be able to hold off this Phoenix Mercury team who they can be a little erratic at times too. Like Sabali was a good buy low last time out for over points, and she went over points after that miserable shooting game in game number one. But those miserable shooting games can come when you least expect it. So I think Mercury advanced, but no play for me as yet on the side.
Yeah, you're right. They've both been a little erratic, these teams, and I feel it's going to be way closer than it was in game two. I just think that was kind of a scoring drift effect from game one, right? We're like, okay, the Liberty handled business, and now, all right, we're not going to. I don't know. I think they took an exhale a little bit, which is also extremely concerning, which is why I think ultimately the Mercury are going to take care of it. But I think the Liberty are going to pack it in, like going to give their absolute all this game. And they're the defending champs. Like they do know how to play in a closeout situation. And it's odd to me that the way this has gone, but of course, it's so much paced by Stewart's injury, which is so unfortunate.
Yeah. So we shall see if we're going to get a Liberty Lynx rematch on Sunday, rematch of the finals. But yeah, that's my play tonight. Cloud over 10.5 points, and would look a little bit fever on Sunday. We of course have no line because the other semifinal is not set, but fever on Sunday at 9.5 would be the way I would look. I think that they're going to come out with, thinking, hey, we got nothing to lose and we're overlooked. The pressure's all on the Aces. The pressure, by the way, is not on the Fever. So I think that they kind of play loose and let it loose a little bit on Sunday. And that always gives you a puncher's chance with the underdog.
You're right. And I do feel like that line could move. So I would maybe get in on that kind of early just because people aren't necessarily thinking about it right now. They're thinking about the game tonight and maybe they're going to start placing their wagers later. But it would be surprising to me if they lost by more than 9. I mean, they've been playing close games and like you said, nothing to lose. So I'm done counting them out because every time I do, I'm wrong. So I'm definitely not going to bet against them. I'd like to see how the first game shakes out, see what I'm working with here. But I do think 9 points, that seems like a large amount.
Yeah, no question about it.
All right. Anything else to say about tonight's game before we close it out?
No, I think we're good. Looking forward to seeing what happens here. I always like deciding games. We had 2 really good ones last night, so hopefully we go 3 for 3 with these. Everybody's obviously focused on Thursday night football, which ended up being a somewhat competitive game, more so than I think the odds makers thought. But the WNBA, I thought, kind of stole the show for the sports calendar last night. I thought you had 2 really great elimination games, and hopefully we have a third tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get much better than an attempted buzzer beater with the lights going out. So
Yes.
everybody tune in if you haven't yet.
Yes, yeah. So twice. So maybe we get a third one tonight out in the Valley of the Sun.
See what happens. But we got a cloud prop bet in Mercury Moneyline we're dealing with tonight. Thanks, guys, for watching. Thank you, Wes, for joining me. And thanks, everybody, putting up with my dogs. Maybe my dog's barking is the underdog siren. So we'll see if the Liberty end up pulling that off, and we'll blame my dogs if that happens. But thanks, guys, for joining us. Like and subscribe if you like what you've heard on our shows, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.